Don't eat that. The voice cut through the clinking of cutlery and quiet laughter like a fire alarm in a church. Heads turned. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Forks froze midair. It wasn't the voice had shocked them, it was who said it. A boy, barefoot, shivering, dressed in a torn hoodie, stood just beyond the polished patio of the Bellview Terrace Café. He wasn't supposed to be there. Not in a place like this. But his eyes were locked on a man in a crisp navy suit. A man with trembling hands, and a spoon hovering inches from his lips. Something about the boy's voice, cracking, defiant, made the whole room hold its breath. He pointed. She put something in your food. I saw her. And suddenly all that fine porcelain and French roast didn't matter anymore. The truth was sitting at the edge of the sidewalk. Dirty, hungry, and very, very real. Thank you for being here. Sometimes, the smallest moments carry the greatest meaning. Today's story is one of those, quiet, powerful, and worth remembering. If it touches your heart, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. And if you'd like more stories like this, you're warmly invited to subscribe and tap the bell so you won't miss the next one. Now let's take a closer look at what really happened. Why would a woman like her need to hide poison inside a bowl of soup? That question wouldn't come for another 5 minutes. But the answer started years earlier, and no one in that cafe knew what was about to unfold. Not the waiter who refilled water glasses with perfect rhythm. Not the couple bickering in hushed tones near the fountain. Not the chef in the back kitchen, singing along to an old Eagles track. And certainly not the man in the center booth. The one with silver hair, a custom, tailored suit, and a fortune that could buy the block twice over. His name was Elliot Barrington, 73 years old, retired oil magnate, a man whose life on the surface had no cracks, but even marble can split if the pressure hits just right. Bellview Terrace Café sat on the north side of Charleston, South Carolina. It was the kind of place where table linens were ironed flat each morning, where every server wore a navy vest and a name tag in cursive script. A fountain burbled out front. Roses climbed the trellis. And somewhere behind the veil of wealth and perfection, something darker waited. It was just after noon. Sunlight spilled through the wide glass windows. The cafe buzzed softly with conversation and the clink of silverware. But Elliot wasn't listening. He sat stiffly, his fingers tracing the edge of a porcelain cup. He looked at the menu but didn't really read it. Across from him sat his wife, Charlotte. Much younger, impossibly beautiful, and impossibly distant. She scrolled through her phone, lips curled into a vague smile. Her hair was a rich chestnut, pulled into a low bun. Not a single strand out of place. Her red lipstick gleamed. Her nails were perfect. But her eyes were somewhere else. Elliot cleared his throat. She didn't look up. He tried again. You're distracted. This time, she smiled without warmth. I'm right here. She reached across the table, placed her hand over his. Her fingers were cold, delicate. You know how much I enjoy these lunches, she said. Outside, just beyond the patio fence, someone was watching, a boy. Maybe 15, skinny, pale. Dark hair tucked under a gray hoodie 2 sizes too big. His name was Tyler Bishop, though no one in that part of town ever used it. To them, he was just that kid. The one who slept in the alley behind the gas station. The one who scavenged for change outside the bus terminal. The one who didn't belong. He stood with his back pressed to the brick wall. Watching, listening, waiting. Tyler's eyes scanned the tables. Baskets of bread, bowls of soup, sparkling glasses of wine. He hadn't had a real meal in weeks. His stomach growled. He pulled his hoodie tighter and stepped forward, edging closer to the patio gate. No one noticed him. Not yet. Back inside, the soup had arrived. Creamy, golden, steaming slightly, the kind of soup that cost more than Tyler usually made in a week. Elliot adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses. His hands were slow, careful. Charlotte reached into her designer handbag. Her expression didn't change, not even when her fingers found the vial. A tiny bottle, clear liquid, no label. She uncapped it with one smooth twist, and without blinking, she tipped the vial over Elliot's soup. The liquid disappeared instantly, swirling into the steam. She stirred it gently, calmly, like nothing had happened. Tyler saw it. He froze, still half, hidden behind the flower boxes. His breath caught. He didn't move. Didn't blink. What did he just see? Was that real? Was she really doing what he thought she was doing? Charlotte leaned forward, her voice low and syrupy. After all the trouble I've gone through, you won't ruin this now. The words hit him harder than the cold. Tyler felt something twist in his gut. Not hunger. Not fear. Something deeper. Something sharp. He backed away from the fence. His heart pounded. He looked around. Nobody else had noticed. Not the waiters. Not the other guests. They were sipping wine, scrolling phones, laughing about nothing. But Tyler couldn't look away from that table. Elliot's hand reached slowly for the spoon, lifted it toward his mouth. Charlotte smiled softly. A mask. A lie. A beautiful lie. Tyler's breath turned to steam in the air. He had to do something. But how? He was a kid, a street rat, a nobody. Who would believe him? His knees felt weak. He turned to go. No. He stopped. Gritted his teeth. Closed his fists. Then, he turned back and ran straight toward the patio gate. Don't eat that. The words burst from Tyler's mouth before he knew he was shouting. Every fork paused midair. The waiter stopped mid-step. A single spoon, Elliot's, froze inches from his lips. And time broke. Charlotte's smile didn't move, but her eyes did. They locked on Tyler with the speed of a hunting hawk. Elliot turned, confused, annoyed. The boy stood near the entry gate panting. Dirty jeans, old sneakers, eyes wide with panic. I saw her, Tyler said, breathless. She put something in your soup. Silence crashed across the cafe. Someone gasped. A napkin fell. A knife clattered on a plate. Charlotte stood slowly, her chair scraping across stone. What did you just say? Her voice was low, sharp, surgical. Tyler flinched but didn't move. She poured something from a bottle just now. When you weren't looking, he said. She stirred it in. Charlotte's fingers curled around her wine glass. Not to drink. To grip. Elliot looked from her to the boy to the bowl. His hand trembled as he set the spoon down. Charlotte. His voice was soft, but there was a steel thread under it. Charlotte blinked, once. Then laughed. A beautiful, brittle sound, louder than it needed to be. He's just a homeless kid, she said. Probably wants money, or attention. She turned back to Tyler, smiling like he was something tracked in from the street. Who even let you in here? But Tyler didn't back down. He stepped closer. Just one step. I don't want anything. I just didn't want him to get hurt. The tension rippled across the patio like heat waves on asphalt. A woman near the back murmured, maybe we should call someone. A man near the fountain muttered, this kid looks serious. Charlotte's voice rose, tight and sharp. You're going to believe some stray over me. But she turned to Elliot, but something flickered in his eyes. Not anger. Not fear. Recognition. Tyler's voice cracked, but it held. You can test the soup, he said. You're rich, right? Have someone check it. Call the cops. Call a doctor. He paused. Just don't eat it. Elliot leaned back slowly. His hand no longer trembled. It rested flat on the table, like a man waiting for a decision to arrive. You've been acting strange for weeks, he said to Charlotte. Now this. Her face darkened. I can't believe you're even entertaining this, she snapped. You said he wants money, Elliot said. But he hasn't asked for a thing. Charlotte's hand twitched. Her voice dropped to a hiss. This is absurd. No, Elliot said. Calm, measured. It's not. He turned to the nearest waiter. Call the police. Charlotte's jaw tightened. Her eyes flared. No, she snapped. This is just a misunderstanding. But she said it too fast. Too loud. Too late. A heavy silence fell again. The waiter rushed inside. Tyler didn't move. Didn't breathe. He'd done all he could. Now it wasn't his story anymore. It was theirs. Charlotte clutched her handbag. You've turned sharply on Tyler. You've been spying, haven't you? You little creep. Tyler blinked. Took a breath. Held his ground. No. I just saw what you did. And I wasn't going to let you get away with it. A whisper moved through the crowd. She looks nervous. That kid's not lying. I think he really saved that man's life. Charlotte heard it. Every word. Like cuts under the skin. Faint sirens. Faint at first. Then louder. Closer. Charlotte's composure slipped like silk off a hook. She took a step back, eyes wild. Don't you dare let them near me, she whispered to Elliot. But he didn't answer. He just stared at her. Stared like he'd never really seen her before. A moment later, two officers entered the cafe, one male, one female, both in uniform, calm, professional. The lead officer stepped forward. What's going on here? Elliot stood. Even at 73, he had presence. His voice, when it came, was solid. This boy says my wife tried to poison me, he said. Please, check the soup. The officer glanced at Charlotte. She stiffened. That's ridiculous, she spat. He's just trying to stir up drama. Look at him. But her voice cracked. The officer looked at Tyler. You saw her do it. Tyler nodded. Clear liquid. Small bottle. She poured it when he wasn't looking. The second officer stepped to the table. Sniffed the soup, carefully. Paused. We need to test this. Charlotte's hand shot out, too late. Don't touch that. Her voice, sharp, desperate, cut through the air like a warning bell. The officer turned to her. Mom, is there something you'd like to tell us before we proceed? Charlotte's chest rose and fell rapid. She looked at Elliot, at Tyler, at the crowd. Then, she snapped. Fine, she growled. You want the truth. The words came fast, hot, unraveled. I'm tired of living in his shadow. He was never supposed to live this long. He controls everything. Everything. She stopped. Too late. She had said too much. The entire cafe froze. Phones lifted. Cameras clicked. Whispers turned to shock. The male officer stepped forward. Mom, he said. You're under arrest for attempted murder. Hands where I can see them. Charlotte screamed, twisted. But they were faster, one twist of the wrist. Click. Silence. They led her away. Down the stone path. Through a crowd that watched, but said nothing. Only Tyler moved. He took one slow step back. Then another. Unsure if he should leave or disappear. But Elliot's voice stopped him. Wait. Tyler, Elliot, pale, shaken, was staring at him. You saved my life. Tyler didn't answer. Didn't know what to say. He just nodded. Elliot's voice lowered. I don't know how to repay you. Tyler shifted awkwardly. I didn't do it for money, he whispered. I just couldn't walk away. Elliot looked at him for a long time. Then said, That's exactly why I want to help. They were gone now. The police. The handcuffs. The woman who once wore a diamond smile like a crown. All that remained was the quiet. The cafe buzz didn't come back. Not really. People murmured. But no one returned to normal. Not after that. Not after a street kid pulled the truth out of silk gloves. Tyler stood beside the patio gate. Still. Unsure. Hands trembling slightly. He hadn't moved since they took her. A part of him wanted to run. Run like he always did. Before someone could change their mind. Before they realized he didn't belong. But he didn't move. Because Elliot was still watching him. The old man sat at the center table. One hand still resting on the white linen. The bowl of soup untouched. His spoon lay beside it like a weapon that never had to be drawn. Slowly, Elliot looked down, pushed the soup away, and sighed. A sound that came from someplace deep and old. Then he looked up again. Sit, he said. Tyler didn't answer. He wasn't sure he heard it right. I said sit down. The voice was soft but steady, not a command, not a threat. Something closer to invitation. Tyler stepped forward, pulled out the opposite chair, sat, his knees knocked together under the table. His hoodie sleeves swallowed half his hands. He looked down, avoided the man's eyes. You saved my life, Elliot said. Simple, direct. Tyler opened his mouth but nothing came out, so he nodded. That took guts, Elliot added. Most people would have said nothing. Tyler finally found his voice. I thought about it. Silence stretched between them. Long. Wide. Heavy. Then Elliot reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out a black phone, tapped a number from memory, walked a few steps away and spoke quietly. Tyler's heart started to race again. Was he calling the cops again? A shelter? Someone to get him off the patio. He should have known better. When Elliot returned, he didn't sit. He placed the phone on the table and said, Help is on the way. Tyler's eyes narrowed. Help. Elliot nodded. I called someone I trust. You'll have a place to stay tonight. A warm bed, food, no strings. Tyler blinked. No catch, no catch. It should have felt like a gift. Instead, it made Tyler feel exposed. I didn't do this for a reward, he muttered. I know, Elliot said. That's why I'm offering one. They sat in silence again. This time it didn't hurt as much. The air felt lighter. Not by much, but enough to breathe. Elliot finally eased into his seat. Then he asked, how long have you been living like this? Tyler hesitated, then shrugged. A while. Elliot didn't press. He just nodded, as if he understood, and maybe he did. Because people who build empires often come from rubble. And people who survive the streets know how to read a man's silence. From across the patio, a waiter approached with a glass of water. He set it down gently in front of Tyler, said nothing, gave him a nod, then walked away, small, but not forgotten. Tyler stared at the glass. For a moment, it felt like a prize he hadn't earned. But then, he drank, and it was the best water he'd had in years. Across the table, Elliot broke the quiet again. There was a moment, he said slowly, right before you spoke up. I remember it. My spoon was in the air and I hesitated. He looked down at his hands. I think some part of me already knew. Tyler watched him. You didn't look surprised, the boy said. Elliot didn't answer right away. Then he nodded. She changed after the wedding, slowly, subtly, but you don't want to believe someone you love could want you gone. Tyler didn't know what to say to that. So he said nothing. But somehow it felt like enough. Time passed. The fountain kept bubbling in the background. The sky began to shift, afternoon light turning golden at the edges. Then a car pulled up out front. Black sedan, clean, private. A woman stepped out, maybe 50, gray coat, sensible shoes. Kind face. She walked straight toward the table and looked at Elliot. He stood. Thank you for coming, he said. She nodded, then turned to Tyler. You must be the brave one, she said, extending her hand. I'm Maria. Tyler shook it, hesitant, but firm. She smiled. Let's get you someplace warm. Tyler looked at Elliot one last time. You sure? Elliot nodded. Go. Rest. We'll talk again tomorrow. Tomorrow. A word Tyler hadn't trusted in a long, long time. As they walked away, Elliot stayed at the table. Alone. Quiet. And for the first time in a very long while, he felt grateful to have not eaten lunch. The next morning was colder. Overcast skies. Wind brushing dead leaves down Charleston's wide streets. The kind of day that made people stay indoors. And made some wonder where kids like Tyler slept on nights like that. But for once, Tyler wasn't outside. He was inside, wrapped in a soft gray blanket, sitting on the edge of a clean bed, staring out a third-story window. The room was small but warm, smelled like cedar. A steaming mug waited on the nightstand. Tyler didn't touch it yet. He didn't trust warmth. Not right away. Maria knocked gently before stepping in. You okay? She asked. Tyler nodded. Didn't sleep much, he said. She smiled kindly. That's okay. Your body's safe, but your mind needs time to believe it. He looked down, then said something he hadn't said in years. Thank you. That afternoon, Elliot called. He didn't ask for anything, just told Maria to bring Tyler to his house. Nothing formal, just lunch. Real food, he said. For the boy who saved my life. Elliot lived in a quiet neighborhood, not a mansion, not anymore. Just a modest brick home with tall trees out front and a swing that hadn't moved in a while. Tyler stood at the gate unsure. But the front door opened, and Elliot waved him in. They ate on the back patio. Sandwiches, soup, different this time, from a sealed can. Tyler smirked at that. They didn't talk much while eating, but afterward, Elliot sat back, hands folded. I thought I'd be dead by now, he said. Tyler looked up. You don't look sick. I'm not. But you thought. I mean it differently, Elliot said. I don't mean body. I mean soul. He tapped his chest. There's a kind of death that creeps in slowly. Comes from being surrounded by people who want your money, but not your company. Tyler nodded. He knew that feeling in reverse. Being invisible to everyone, until you became useful, or a problem. You saw something I didn't want to admit, Elliot said. You forced me to look. Tyler stayed quiet. Then, I didn't mean to blow up your life. You didn't, Elliot said. She did. A pause. Then Tyler added, still doesn't feel like I belong here. Elliot leaned forward. Do you know how many people came to me yesterday? Whispering that they saw something too. that they had suspicions. Tyler looked surprised. They just didn't speak up. Elliot continued. But you did. He let that settle in. That's what makes you different. Not your clothes, not your past, your spine. Tyler didn't know what to say. So Elliot pushed a folder across the table. Maria drew up a few things if you want them. Tyler opened it. A referral to a boarding program, a housing voucher, a clean state ID form, and a card with Elliot's name on it. My lawyer can help. You won't owe me. This isn't charity. Tyler stared at the paper. What is it then? Elliot took a breath. Legacy. They sat together in silence. No promises, no contracts. Just two men at a table. One who used to rule the world, and one who had never been offered a seat at the table before. Eventually, Tyler asked, "Why me?" Lee Elliot looked at him, then said, very quietly, "Because you didn't look away." That night, the sun slipped behind the trees. Lights scattered across the brick walls of the house, and inside, over the sound of an old jazz record playing faintly from a speaker, Elliot told a story from his childhood. Tyler listened. Later, he told a story of his own. Neither of them spoke like victims, and neither of them called it friendship, but they kept talking. Days passed, then weeks. Tyler didn't vanish. He showed up again, and again. Clean clothes, a new backpack, even a journal. He still walked with caution, still flinched when people looked too long. But he didn't run. Elliot, for his part, changed too. No more cafe lunches, no more pretending not to see. He planted new things in the garden, bought books, learned how to use his hands again, for something other than contracts. And people whispered. They always do. That's the boy from the cafe. That's the man whose wife tried to kill him. That's the kid who stopped it all. But inside that house on Bellwood Lane, they didn't speak of it like that. They spoke of music, of books, of stupid movies, of where to get the best chili in town. They spoke of things that made them feel human, and that was enough. They never told the full story, not to reporters, not to neighbors, not to the men at the country club who called Elliot resilient, but never asked how he slept at night, and certainly not to the people who nodded at Tyler now, but still kept their car doors locked when they passed him on the sidewalk. No, some stories are too big for headlines, too small for applause, too sacred for anyone else to handle. So they kept it simple. Elliot would say, he did the right thing. And Tyler, he'd say nothing at all. He didn't need to anymore. Months passed. Spring came. The fountain outside Bellview Terrace Café still trickled each morning. But Elliot didn't sit there anymore. He'd given his favorite table to someone else. A waitress with a new baby trying to work double shifts. He never said why. But some mornings, she found a crisp bill tucked under her tray. And a note in neat handwriting that read, "Don't look away." Tyler finished his first semester in the youth transition program. It wasn't easy. He didn't ace every test, didn't win every conversation, but he showed up. Every day, he stopped stealing glances over his shoulder, stopped waiting for the world to kick him again. Because now he had someone to call. Sometimes he visited Elliot on Sundays. They'd play cards, talk about nothing. Then Elliot would hand him a list, books to try, quotes to memorize, people to study. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about not forgetting where courage lives. One evening, just as the light turned gold and long shadows stretched across the porch, Elliot said something different. You know, that day you stood up in the cafe, I think that saved more than just me. Tyler tilted his head. What do you mean? Elliot looked out at the trees. At some point in life, people stop expecting anything from themselves. They become quiet passengers. Let others decide everything, even who they are. He paused. You reminded me I'm not done. Tyler didn't reply right away. But when he finally did, his voice was soft. I wasn't sure anyone would believe me. Neither was I, Elliot said. But you spoke anyway. A beat. That's what changes the world. Later that night, Tyler sat on the steps outside the house. Stars blinking overhead. A stillness that didn't feel empty anymore. And for the first time in years, he closed his eyes and made a wish. Not for food, not for money, for time. More time, to be this version of himself. The one who didn't look away. Inside, Elliot stood in the doorway, watching. remembering the moment when a boy had stopped a spoon from reaching his lips and instead handed him back his life. He didn't say anything, just stood there, breathing in the silence. Because the truth is, courage doesn't always wear a badge. It doesn't always shout. Sometimes it shows up in a whisper, a shiver, a small hand pointing at something no one else dared to see. And sometimes, when the world refuses to notice, a boy in a hoodie saves a man in a suit. Sometimes, doing the right thing won't get you applause. It won't earn you followers. It won't even get you thanks. Sometimes, doing the right thing just hurts. You get shouted at, ignored, maybe even punished. But still, you do it. Because there's a moment in every life when silence becomes betrayal. And courage. Courage is not about being brave. It's about being willing. Willing to speak when your voice shakes. Willing to act when your hands are trembling. Willing to step forward when you know you'll be alone. Tyler had nothing, no safety net, no title, no reason to be believed. But he saw something no one else would face, and he didn't look away. And maybe that's all we're ever asked to do. To see, to speak, to care. Because sometimes, the smallest voice can stop the biggest lie. So wherever you are, whatever you carry, please, don't look away. If this story moved something in you, if it reminded you of someone you once were, or someone you hope to be, we'd love to hear from you. Your words matter. And if you'd like more stories like this, quiet, powerful, and true, please subscribe and tap the bell. Not for us, but for the next Tyler who needs to be seen.